For millions of households, the Wringer washer was once a major step forward. A motor could agitate clothes in a tub, replacing some of the hardest hand scrubbing. But the machine did not complete the job. Wet clothing still had to be lifted from the water and fed carefully between two rollers. The Wringer squeezed out water so the fabric could move to a rinse tub or the clothesline. Wash day became faster, yet it remained a physical sequence. Sort, fill, wash, lift, wring, rinse, wring again, and hang. The rollers were effective, but they demanded attention. Buttons could break. Fabric could bunch. Hair or fingers had to stay safely away from the moving mechanism. Many machines included pressure releases, but the open rollers still made the operator part of the machinery. That is the key to why the Wringer washer vanished. Fully automatic washers did not merely clean better, they enclosed the sequence. A user could load clothes, add detergent, select a cycle, and leave. Washing, draining, rinsing and spinning happened inside one cabinet. The spin cycle removed water without asking someone to guide every garment through rollers. As plumbing and automatic machines spread, the Wringer's main advantage became its weakness. It required continuous handling. Some households kept them because they were durable, economical or useful where water systems were limited. But the center of the market moved toward unattended operation. The Wringer washer deserves more than a joke about old-fashioned laundry. It was a bridge technology. It replaced muscle with a motor, but not yet judgment and supervision. Its disappearance marks the moment when household automation stopped assisting each step and began taking over the whole process. That is the short version of the Wringer washer story. To understand why it mattered, we need to slow down and examine the entire system around it. The operator, the mechanism, the infrastructure, the economics, the social habits, the transition, the exceptions, and the legacy. Start with the human routine. The Wringer washer reduced scrubbing but kept the operator physically inside every transfer between washing, rinsing, squeezing, and drying. The important comparison is not between human labor and a machine in isolation, but between two complete routines. A product earns a place in daily life when it removes decisions, interruptions, and opportunities for error as well as physical effort. Notice who begins the task, who watches it, who corrects it, and who cleans up afterward. Those quiet obligations often explain adoption better than a specification sheet. A faster mechanism can still feel slow when it repeatedly calls a person back into the process. Now look closely at the mechanism. Its rollers solved water removal mechanically, yet every garment still had to be judged, lifted, straightened, and guided by hand. A mechanism can appear simple after it becomes familiar, yet its design fixes a chain of choices about timing, force, feedback, and control. Those choices determine what the operator must still notice and what the product can safely decide by itself. The useful question is where judgment lives. It may sit in a lever, a gauge, a physical stop, a warning sound, or the practiced senses of the user. Later designs often look smarter because they move more of that judgment inside the product. The third layer is infrastructure. Safety releases could reduce harm, but exposed moving rollers made attention and correct posture part of the machine's operating system. Objects do not spread on engineering merit alone. They rely on power, communications, roads, plumbing, retail, repair, standards, or trained workers. When that supporting network changes, the same object can move from essential to inconvenient without changing its physical form. Infrastructure is easiest to notice when it is missing. Once it becomes reliable, Designers can assume it exists and remove features that once compensated for uncertainty. The next generation then appears simpler only because more complexity has moved out of sight. There is also an economic question. The product belonged to homes where wash day was a scheduled block of labor rather than a background cycle started before leaving the room. Buyers compare more than the price on the day of purchase. They also absorb time, maintenance, supplies, training, risk, and the cost of keeping an older system alive. A replacement becomes persuasive when the total burden shifts. Even if the original product still works, that burden is distributed unevenly. The purchaser, operator, repairer, employee, and family member may each experience a different cost. A successful product can therefore win by solving the problem of the person who makes the decision, even when another person performs the work. The social meaning matters too. Automatic washers won by integrating stages, not merely by making any single stage faster or more powerful. Everyday products signal expectations about speed, cleanliness, status, privacy, responsibility, and skill. People may accept an awkward device when it represents progress, or abandon a capable one when its rituals begin to feel out of step with ordinary life. Advertising can amplify that shift, but it does not create it alone. Friends, workplaces, shops, and public institutions teach people what normal use looks like. Once the new behavior becomes ordinary, the old routine can seem demanding even to someone who once performed it without complaint. Replacement rarely happens in a single moment. Plumbing, drainage, electric motors, controls, and the spin cycle had to work together before unattended washing became dependable. Old and new systems overlap while prices fall, habits adjust, and supporting services reorganize. During that interval, decline can look slow. Once the surrounding network tips toward the replacement, however, the remaining market can contract with surprising speed. This is why a date of invention rarely marks a clean beginning, and a date of discontinuation rarely marks a clean end. The useful timeline follows access, affordability, confidence, and repeated use. Those changes can lag behind the laboratory by years or decades. The surviving exceptions are revealing. The Wringer survived where durability, water control, repairability, or limited infrastructure mattered more than convenience. A product that disappears from the mainstream can remain valuable in places with different constraints. Survival is evidence that design is always conditional. Convenience for one household or business may be fragility, waste, or unnecessary complexity for another. These holdouts are not simply people trapped in the past. They can be rational users optimizing for control, durability, independence, familiarity, or low operating cost. Looking at the exceptions protects the history from becoming a simple story in which every newer product is automatically better. Finally, consider the legacy. Its history shows the difference between mechanizing human effort and automating an entire decision-filled process. The most durable inheritance is often not the object itself but the behavior it normalized. Later products can hide the same task behind software, sensors, or a larger network, making yesterday's visible mechanism difficult to recognize inside today's routine. To find that inheritance, follow the promise rather than the shape. Ask what uncertainty the product removed, what action it made repeatable, and what expectation it taught users to carry forward. The casing may vanish while the promise becomes an invisible standard for everything that follows. Taken together, these layers explain why the Wringer washer was neither a foolish dead end nor an inevitable step toward the present. It was a practical answer to one historical arrangement of labor, technology, cost, and expectation. Its rise shows what people urgently needed at that moment. Its decline shows which surrounding conditions changed. And its legacy survives wherever a newer product quietly performs the same job with fewer visible steps. That is why ordinary relics deserve more than nostalgia. They reveal the hidden systems inside everyday life.